Good news, stocks continuing their winning streak for a fourth straight day. The market's somewhat encouraged by what they're hearing out of Beijing as trade talks wrap up there. A Chinese delegation may travel to the U.S. on January 22nd for additional talks. That, as the U.S. Trade Rep's office released this statement today, saying that part of the trade talks, and I'm quoting now, focused on China's pledge to purchase a substantial amount of agriculture, energy, manufactured goods, and other products and services from the U.S. So, is this a major breakthrough, gang?
Look, call me skeptical. I have a little announcement here from December 1st from the White House, and I think the news that was today came out December 1st. And here's the problem with China. They lie and they steal. And they steal and they lie, and there are rules on the books now that they don't listen to. And all these organizations like the WTO and all the alphabet soup are supposedly overseeing it, say nothing and do nothing. It happens to Europe also. They say nothing and do nothing. We're the only one talking, and I'm just worried we're going to be nice, just try to get a deal done, but there's going to be no meat in it at the end of the day. I hope I'm wrong.
No, I think you're actually probably right, Gary. I think that the president is highly focused on metrics where he says he can say that he's winning. And obviously the stock market is something he's very focused on. And he realizes that trade is a headwind here. So I can see a sort of situation where he decides to part and parcel this out, maybe into part one and part two, or part one, part two, part three. And part one is this pledge to buy some more stuff, but we maybe never get to part two and part three. And so my concern is that we've had this entire tariff overhang and trade overhang, and we don't really get anything out of the deal at the end of the day, but Trump gets to say that he got a win.
Well, what they're doing now is they're doing the easy part, which is buying stuff. China needs natural gas, for example. I wouldn't be surprised you see a 10-year deal involving hundreds of billions of dollars, great for the energy industry. And those things are easy to monitor. They either buy it or they don't. The real crux is going to come, can they make any headway on stealing intellectual property, forcing partnerships with people who operate in China? And one way they might try to get around it, the Chinese, is to create opportunity zones the way they did before, where if you go in that zone, no partnerships, no forced transfers or something like that, bring the Europeans in. I think the Chinese want a deal, and they'll try to figure out a way to do that. And so we'll get a better feel tomorrow, Beijing time, on whether they're going to do the purchase part.
We should mention that.
But the key thing is free trade zone in China.
The U.S. team right now is on a plane coming back. They're going to, as soon as they come back tonight, which is morning time in Beijing, they're going to issue a statement, a joint statement with the Chinese.
I'm coming dangerously close to optimism on this. I feel like the tone sounds a little different. And look, we're not going to solve every problem with this meeting, right? What we want is enough progress so that we can move on with our lives and so the company chiefs can do business and invest. I'm hopeful that this will be, maybe it's like the NAFTA thing where we come up with Trumpsta and it's not quite a totally different thing. It's pretty much the same with a few tweaks here and there. Maybe we get some improvement and we can go on.
But the key thing is removing those tariffs, those sales taxes. You take those off, that'll be a huge win for the global economy and, moreover, a huge win for the U.S. economy.
I can guarantee
Steve,
you
I
one
want to
thing.
go back to you.
I can guarantee you one thing. The rhetoric's going to be positive from both sides. China, I've been watching their markets. I see what's going on in the economy. And politically, their poll numbers are heading farther south than Root Canal at this point in time. So they know they got to get something done if their economy heads south. But again, it just seems to me that each side is selling themselves and what may get done. But I just think we're going to see a bunch of partial stuff, and hopefully the market takes it the right way.
But one of the things I think will come out of this is there are going to be reforms of the WTO on enforcement, because China's found ways to run around that. We reformed the old trading system in the 90s. I think we're going to see a move among our trading partners to reform it again, to have better enforcement in this digital age.
Steve, but building on that point and getting our allies involved, why haven't we pursued IP in a different way? We know that China is filing all these patents. They want to be a technological leader. Why don't we band together with our allies and say, you know what, we're not going to enforce any of your intellectual property rights unless you do the same? Why haven't we gone that route instead of the route of trade and tariffs?
That's a question I've been asking for a long time, Carol, and I don't know why they didn't do that at the beginning. tariffs are sales taxes. We're punishing American consumers, American businesses. We should have gone to the jugular at the first place and not hurt ourselves in the process.
And, Steve, what about this metric that the president keeps insisting on, that somehow a trade deficit with China is a bad thing, and therefore we have to work towards a balance? Do you think that's helpful at all?
No, because in the real world, every time you go out buy dinner tonight, you have a trade deficit. If you look at the amount of cash leaving the U.S. versus the amount of cash coming in the U.S., it balances out. People invest in this country. We're still, even though we're the biggest in the world, people still want to park their money here, whether they're Chinese, English, or whatever. We're the best place to be.
All right. Well, we're praying for a deal here, folks.